On today's show, our review of Forza Motorsport 4. Welcome to Inside Sim Racing. I'm Jessica Lopez, and this is our review of Forza Motorsport 4 by Turn 10. Long awaited for review that a lot of you guys out there have been asking us for. Before we get things started, I kind of like to touch up on that for a moment. Now, a lot of people want to know what takes us so long to get a review out. We like to give the game some time and make sure that we get to see it in every detail and give some time to the developers to fix any issues that may pop up along the way before we do a review. Now, before you'd buy a game, and that would be that. Now there's patches that get released, there's new content known as DLC, and communities that are built upon the game, and we like to make sure that we take all those things into consideration with our review. So before we do a review, we always do a preview, or what we call a first look, which we did a couple months back. If you guys have not seen that yet, you can go ahead to our website, InsideSimRacing.tv, and go under our Forza tab, and you can find it there. We like to do a preview, or what we call first look, on the title as soon as it's released, or even before it's released if we have our hands on the title. With all of that being said, the time has now come for us to review Forza Motorsport 4 by Turn 10. I'm gonna go ahead and bring Sean onto the set. Welcome, Sean Shimmy Cole.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here for this today.
As I'm sure a lot of the viewers are as well. They've been waiting for this moment, and before we get further deep into this, we'd like to do a little review on Forza, the franchise.
Yeah, kind of a little history piece. I mean, you look all the way back to 2005 when Forza first came out, and I think we take for granted some of the things that have come in for Forza 4, so I kind of wanted to bring it all together in one piece.
All right, well, let's take a look at what Sean has to say about the history of Forza.
Forza, which is Italian for force or strength. And in the case of Forza Motorsports, we're talking about one of the strongest franchises in automotive gaming history. The game has been made by Turn 10, which was created by Microsoft as a first-party vendor to produce their line of racing games. And under the direction of Dan Grenewalt, they set forward to make Forza Motorsport for the Xbox. The original installment of Forza came with well over 200 cars and 17 tracks. The game was innovative and brought new features to Xbox sim racing. The game was so innovative that it actually landed inside the pages of Popular Mechanics magazine. Drivers would be getting a first look at what it was like to tune cars and work their way up the ladder to faster, more exotic cars as they progressed. Forza Motorsports would go on to sell over 1.5 million copies and was critically acclaimed. Then 2 years later, we would see the arrival of Forza Motorsports 2. This time, the title had moved on to the Xbox 360, which gave the developers much more system to work with. This version of the game would allow for painting of your cars, adding to the customization that Forza was already known for. You would also be able to sell your paint jobs in the online store, opening up a whole new part of the sim. The damage had also been expanded into the game, now allowing for the total destruction of one's car when playing in simulation mode. This would also be when the multiplayer part of Forza really started to begin, between the storefront, multiplayer racing, and leaderboards being kept to find the best racers on Earth. The car list had also been significantly increased up to nearly 350 cars, and we would also see the first DLC for the franchise in the form of a Nissan car pack, as well as the Peugeot 908 race car, and they would go on to release a few more DLC car packs. Forza 2 went on to sell over 3.5 million copies. And then in 2009, we would see Forza Motorsport 3 hit the shelves. This time, the Turn 10 team expanded on the game in every way. The title would include over 500 cars and 25 different tracks to run on. The physics had been completely reworked and included tire deformation and the vehicle's ability to roll over in a wreck. Forza 3 was the first version to feature in-car view and had detailed interiors to all of the cars. The AI in the game had become a lot more intuitive and could be pressured into mistakes. The tuning and customization of the vehicles had also been expanded. Forza 3 also gained a very robust career mode and a season events list offering over 200 challenges to a driver. The leaderboards would also be expanded to include more categories, and the photo mode had been added to the game. The multiplayer racing had also seen a makeover, allowing racers to control a lot more features of the races as they were creating them. Forza 3 would also see its share of DLC ranging from a couple of free packs as well as multiple different add-ons costing a small fee. There would also be an ultimate collection of the game that included all of the available DLC included in one package. And that takes us today with Forza Motorsport 4, which came out in October of 2011. The version that we are reviewing today that would once again see more cars and tracks, as well as many new or expanded features like Auto Vista, 16-player online racing, car clubs and rivals, content in conjunction with both ALMS and Top Gear, and compatibility with Kinect.
Take your hobby to the next level with a quality racing rig that works great with a PS3, Xbox 360, and a PC. GT Omega Racing Simulator is compatible with a wide range of steering wheels including Logitech, Fanatec, Thrustmaster, and more. The GT Omega is available now worldwide by going to www.gtomegaracing.com.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. That was a cool, brief history on Forza done by Sean there.
It sure was. I actually learned a lot from watching that.
We hope all of you did out there as well. Now it's time to take a look at what has been fixed and or added since the title's initial release, and all of the downloadable content that has been added as well.
Yeah, they've added quite a few things and a few patches to go along with it. So
now, as you've seen by the history since its beginning up until now, there have been added of cars, tracks. I mean, the career mode has gotten more extensive, and we're gonna go ahead and start off by the downloadable content. Some things are free, some things come at a purchase price. I mean,
you can even buy like a season pass too.
Yeah, $29.99 US dollars. I think it comes with 6 redeemable
packs.
Yeah.
And as for the looks of it, they're gonna be coming out with one every month. So far, they've got a November, December, January pack, all with about 10 cars each.
And most recently, they had a free pack that was released, which we talked about on our last show of This Week Inside Sim Racing, the Veloster pack.
Is it the Veloster or Veloster?
I'm not sure, but I know it came with 2 free cars.
I thought it was Velociter, but...
I did too, and then you guys corrected me and said Veloster, and I'm like, okay, so the
Whatever.
Veloster pack with 2 free cars.
Which I just got, by the way.
How is it?
I haven't tried them.
Oh.
I just downloaded them.
Okay, well anyhow, and since then they've also released 2 patches. Well, not since then, but since the release of the title. The first patch didn't really do much, and they didn't really say what it was fixing or addressing, but the second patch was the most significant, and why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, one of the biggest things it addressed was the steering bug, the 270 degree to 900 degree of rotation steering bug. So if you set it at 900 degrees, the car still reacted like it was it was kind of a weird deal. And then it also showed it in the telemetry that was wrong. Also, they made the physics a little tougher. So along with that 900 degrees of rotation, you're able to use all of that rotation. So supposedly that steering assist bug, which was part of that whole thing, has been eliminated now. Yeah, and then there was a credit bug where you weren't getting credits because of that 900 degrees of rotation. There was a cheat that they thought you were actually cheating because you were driving so precise. And it was mainly on ovals, so you'd run the whole thing and get no credits for it. That's been fixed. And a few other things along the way.
And with more DLC coming out every month, I mean, they're packing so much into this title and will continue to do so. A large community has grown. I mean, you got car clubs, rivals mode, and with this creation of community, you've put together a piece that talks all about the Forza 4 community.
I have, and it's a lot of fun in the community, and it's really grown and lots of stuff going on out there. And yeah, I put together a little piece talking about what's going on.
Let's check it out.
All right.
Those of you that watched our first look at Forza 4 might say, Sean already did a piece on the community. Why is Darren doing one? Well, what Sean didn't touch on was what goes on outside of the game, or outside of Forza 4, and that's in the internet communities. Whether it's painting, tuning, events, leagues, leaderboards, car clubs, there's probably a Forza community for you. So we're going to start by going to the Forza forums by going to forums.forzamotorsport.net. That's what I got up here behind us. You can log in with your gamer tag actually, so if you're online and you have a live gamer tag, you can use that, and that's what you're going to become identified here in whatever community you want to be a part of. So first up, there's the general forums. You can check out some threads started by the Turn 10 team as well as started by people like you and me in the community. For instance, there's this one I just pulled up on the track wish list for Forza Motorsport 4, and they were asking the community what tracks they wanted in Forza 4. And there was another one for cars as well. So back to the index. Below the general discussion, there's Forza community events, which seems to be more for painters that do their incredible work, and these are hosted by Turn 10, and they seem to have some contests. Then going down the list, you have sections for all the various sub-communities I mentioned, as well as some others. There's a seller's marketplace, 2 paint livery lounges, a multimedia showcase, drifting, and then my 2 personal favorites, a race lounge and one that's called The Strip, where a bunch of drag racers hang out. There's also a tuner's marketplace, and last but not least, there's a clubhouse where you can look for car club members or talk about your club, create rivalries, all sorts of good stuff. So let's back up a bit and go to where I'd be hanging out, and that is at the Racers Lounge. I'm gonna bring that up here. The Racers Lounge has tons of private leagues, pages and pages of private leagues for guys that are running Forza 4, and now with the ability to have 16 drivers on track at the same time, it makes it an even better platform to have online races. And I mentioned some communities, and some of the leagues are basically a community as well. And some even race other titles like R Factor and iRacing and stuff like that. One of my favorites, and one that I think Sean and I actually ran in about a year or so ago, is the American Iron Series. And one of the cool things about Forza is the configurability of a multiplayer race and rules that can be implemented to create a level playing field. The series is inspired by the real series here in the States, NASA, or National Auto Sport Association. They follow the real rule set really closely, mimicking the real series in some aspects. Not only do they have one series, they run multiple with different classes of cars. Then there's guys that are running full-on endurance series races. The FLMS series has even run a full 24-hour event where they had 8 teams of 3 drivers competing at Le Mans. The race itself was divided in 12 stints of 2 hours each, enabling driver swaps between the stints. Distances were collected at the end of each stint and recorded, and the team which scored the greatest combined distance at the end of the 12 stints was declared the winner. Besides the Forza forums that are run by Turn 10 and Microsoft, there's places like ForzaPlanet.net or even our own section at our forums devoted to Forza 4. So as you can see, there's lots of variety when it comes to the community. That's a big part of the success of this franchise. Communities always breathe new life into titles, and on the PC there's modding, and on the console, when done right, there's some great communities. Turn 10 has done a great job of laying the groundwork for a very large community that supports the title and continues to breathe new life into it. In closing, one of the best things about online racing communities is the amount of great people you can meet and become friends with. As a matter of fact, this show began because I met Sean in an online racing community. So if you're not part of one, you may be missing out on a lot of fun.
Welcome back to the show, guys. It's now the time that all of you have been waiting for. As you can see, I don't have Sean or Darren sitting here with me. They're actually in the other room getting ready to put Forza 4 through category by category by category and give it a final score. So here's Sean and Darren with their final thoughts on the title, their score, putting it on category through category, final thoughts, the whole shabammy.
So here's the moment we've all been waiting for, the actual opinion part. Jessica mentioned at the beginning of the show, you know, our preview, gosh, this was like the encyclopedia of Forza. So there's not a lot for us to tell you about the game. I mean, it really comes down to opinion.
Yeah, and one thing I'd like to say really quick is, you know, we've gotten beat up a little bit from some of you guys out there. Where's the Forza review? What's the point of even coming out with it now? And, you know, we covered this title a lot leading up to now. E3 previews, lots of stuff. We even met with John Wendell. And when we saw the bowling and the Clarkson Auto Vista for the first time. We also did the encyclopedia, like you said, yet people are all over us. Where's your review? So we went over a lot of this stuff already, but this is going to be our scores. So that's, sorry we took so long. We like to let the game brew. We like to let the patches come out. Every title gets patched nowadays. There was a major patch for this one just not long ago. So, just like we did with Gran Turismo.
Absolutely.
iRacing.
Absolutely.
Every other title we've pretty much reviewed in the last 3 years, we wait for the patch.
And I'll put our previews against most other organizations, anything. So we've already been thorough, and now it's just what do we feel about each category. And I want to get going with physics, which
most important part to us.
Absolutely.
And despite still being a bit on the console or arcade side, Forza 4's physics are still some of the best on the console so far. I definitely feel a little bit of improvement in the tire physics. They have their relationship with Pirelli now, and I'm not sure if they did in the past, but supposedly they use data, change the tires on all the cars. I definitely felt a difference. It still has that Forza feel, though,
Absolutely.
in the physics department. Easy to correct, which isn't a bad thing, honestly. A lot of sims are, in my opinion, too hard compared to real life. In real life, you have everything else connecting you to the car. The feel, the seat of the pants, the motion of the car, gravity, all that stuff, and you don't get that in a sim. And a real car is easier to, in my opinion, drive tail happy.
I completely agree.
And, Forza's done I think they've done a great job of capturing that. Is it on the level of the PC? Not quite yet, but I still think some of the best on the console.
I agree. It's one of my favorite console physics. The grip seems a little much, the braking seems a little much, and I'm kind of always feeling like I'm chasing the car's handling, but they're very much driving physics that I like.
Yeah, and we just had a get-together here, and about everything we had running, it seemed the guys had the hardest time getting a grip with Forza.
Yeah. It's its own recipe. You got to get acclimated to it, that's for sure.
Yeah. So next up, graphics. Sean, let's take
Graphics.
that.
Again, this is an area where Forza absolutely excels. Their graphics are they're phenomenal. We're not talking photorealism like Gran Turismo, but we are talking about some incredible playable graphics in that the frame rates are incredible. The smoke, the dirt, the trackside objects, the fact that you can hit cones, and I think of that in graphics as well.
That's a big plus for graphics when it comes to racing sim. I like having the movable objects, the cones. When you hit them, they go flying. Debris, dust, stuff like that.
Also, some of the damage effects that you see. So we'll cover damage later, but like you scratch a car and you leave scratches on the side.
Yeah, definitely up there with the best. And next up, sound. Talk about some of the best. One of the things I like the best about Forza, and for me being able to figure out what the car is doing, is the sounds. At the edge of grip level, and I mentioned this in our preview, of where that tire's breaking loose is some of the best in the industry. They've done a really good job of that. All the cars sound unique, so really, really good sounds.
Also, when you tune the cars, you'll notice that too. Like it'll pick up RPM and you'll hear those differences of exhaust and engine changes.
Yep.
Another thing I love about Forza is it has great music. It's got that Jean-Luc Picard guy back in the game and Jeremy Clarkson for, well, mostly Auto Vista.
Today you'll revisit Switzerland and the twists and turns of the Bernese Alps. The Cinque uses a double A-arm suspension design with Öhlins developed titanium springs and shock absorbers.
The Pagani Zonda, a car which proves that in Italy you can wake up one morning, drink one too many espressos, tell the world you're going to make a car as fast and as good as a Ferrari, and then actually go ahead and do it.
So next up is tracks. There are 26 different racing arenas, I'm going to call it. They're not all tracks, but there are tons of varieties, from the Bernese Alps, where you're running on basically like street roads kind of thing. I mean, no, cross streets. You've got some of the world famous tracks like Mazda Laguna Seca, just endless amounts. You have different variations. And the other thing is the trackside objects are pretty realistic. I mean, you go to Infineon and you see things that are only at Infineon. It's not like F1 came in for the day and exploded the track.
Would have liked to have seen more.
Yeah.
I think they were a little shy on some of the real world stuff. Definitely, like I said, would have liked to see more stuff. Some of the best fantasy tracks in all of sim racing. I really dig their fantasy style, like you mentioned, the Bernese Alps. Also would have liked to have seen dirt.
Yes.
You know, its counterpart, its competitor, which we'll compare later on, had dirt, and they did a great job of it, and there was none of it here, you know. And something we didn't mention about the tracks and the graphics is the different times. You can do like a morning session and an afternoon, no night stuff, no rain, but you can definitely do 2 different times a day, and depending on the track, you can vary it between that. Next up, cars. I mean, 500 plus. I mean, you just, there's so many. I haven't even driven half of them. I don't even own half of them. I own a lot. I mean, I definitely got a lot of cash built up, and I mean, I'm up to level 50 something on my career. So I've definitely built up a lot of cars, but you know, over 500, all beautiful inside and out. Supposedly they've re-rendered all of them. The interiors are all nicely done, and all have unique sounds. Can be customized, painted, upgraded, any way you want.
Yeah, complete freedom. The other thing is the 24 cars in Auto Vista, and I mean, in-game driving, they're incredible, but in Auto Vista, we're talking down to nuts and bolts, and it's incredible. The other thing for me is I hear a lot of people griping that Porsche licensing is not in the game, but you still got rough. I mean, you got Porsches in the game, so to act like they're not there is insane.
Yeah, I mean, didn't you do some research on it, and it's everything Porsche.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, outside the VIN number, it's a Porsche. Heavily modified, but it's a Porsche. Next thing is fun factor, and I'm gonna tell you, Forza 4 would have got a 10 out of 10 right out of the gates, but the career mode, and I'm gonna go on to things I loved about it, but the career mode is something I depend on in these games for, and it was just too easy, and that took away from the fun factor in the game. Now, when I look at Rivals mode, the clubs, the Auto Vista, the cool look of the career mode, it still maintains a very good fun factor for me.
Yeah, and the career mode to me, as you know, organic or whatever you want to call it, as it was not linear enough for me. You know, I went and tried to run the championships in the events, and you couldn't do it. You had to basically follow that world tour. I didn't. I meant to go back and try it to stay in one car and one class, but I was bouncing all over the place. So it's cool. And then you know what? We're going to talk about this later. The lack of, and maybe it's just us, and not to say that we're the best out there. I know we're pretty good, but you know, the AI was just way too easy for us. I mean, it was hard for me to lose if I was equally matched. I definitely had to drop it a notch. You know, if I was in an S-class race, I had to run in an A-class car for it to be competitive, and I was still winning.
Yeah.
And that wasn't like that in Forza 3. Forza 3, I remember out of the gate, that first race was tough, and you're always racing the Rossi guy, who's always tough. And supposedly it got a little tougher with the patch, and it did on the physics end, but not to me, man. It was a little bit better. I like the physics better after the change.
Yeah.
You know, they changed that bug, but yeah, fun factor, it was up there.
Yeah.
It definitely. By the way, we're going to give you all the scores at the end. We're just going through each category.
Well, you know, the fun factor, the AI was the Achilles heel of fun factor, but you still had the 16-player multiplayer. I mean, all the other things I mentioned, the paint shop that you mentioned, the tuning. I mean, there's still so much going on there that keeps Forza still very strong in that category.
Absolutely. And next up, we have force feedback, and it honestly got weaker at the patch.
Yeah.
It was a little bit stronger before the patch. Still good, solid force feedback. Can't really complain about it. I wouldn't say it's an industry benchmark or standard, but
I kind of call it just kind of average. It's there, it works.
Yep.
Next up is AI. We already really started beating up on it, so we'll keep this short. The AI are just too easy. They're no challenge. I mean, I can go run with a clutch and a stick shift in a car 2-3 classes lower, and I'm still going to be beating them. You can kind of just nudge them out of your way. They brake check for no reason in the middle of corners.
Well, and you know, now they really make some mistakes. So that adding to the fact that they're slow, I mean, don't make the mistakes now. I mean, because they're so slow, they're easy to beat. So
well, and that's what's fascinating to me is that if I get out in front and then like watch them behind me, they race each other really well. So I mean, there's some great things in the AI. They're just not meant to be against us, and they don't learn, so they're not going to keep up with me just because I'm fast.
I would have liked to have been able to crank it up.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
extreme AI. You could play like a Dirt 3 and the AI is so extreme. I had to turn it down a little bit.
Definitely.
Next up place where this title shines, multiplayer. 16 players now. Rivals mode, which is a lot of fun. All the different community stuff we talked about in the community piece. So multiplayer is definitely a strong point in this title.
Definitely. Another strong point is damage. Damage is, visually I mentioned, is fantastic. On the physics end, it's a little gentle, so some minor bumping is not going to cause you any game-ending problems, but you can really cause some carnage. I mean, these cars can be made a mess of. You got the gearbox damage.
That's one of my favorite damage model things in the game is the transmission damage.
Yeah.
Sorry for cutting you off there.
No, but that's about it. I mean, it's great damage. I mean, we've done damage videos, and I mean, I'll watch replays just to see the damage, and I have to admit, I have a hard time not intentionally smashing into the AI sometimes just to see what it'll do to the cars.
Yep. Next up, presentation. Overall presentation's great. The interface, the music, the world tour, how that all progresses with the Jean-Luc Picard, and I'm sorry, I don't know the guy's name. But it's got a great presentation, a lot better than the calendar that was in Forza 3.
Yeah, much more exciting.
But like I said, would have liked to have seen more of a challenge there in the presentation. Anything else on the presentation?
No, I mean, I think we kind of covered it in a few other topics, so I think we're pretty well covered there.
Cost?
Cost.
Final category of the Shabammy, and we're going to have our scores right now. After this.
I have to tell you, some of the scores are a little lower than I anticipated for the overall package of the game, but it is hard to beat Forza for the money.
Yep.
There's so much to do.
Yeah. So that's going to lead us to our scores, going back to physics, and this will add them all up, and we're going to give you the final Shabammy or review score of Forza 4. Starting with physics, we gave it 11.5 out of 15. Graphics, 9 out of 10. Sounds, 9 out of 10. Tracks, 8 3/4 out of 10. Cars, 9 3/4 out of 10. Fun factor, 8 3/4 out of 10. Force feedback, 7.5 out of 10. AI, 2 out of 5. Multiplayer, 4 out of 5. Damage, 4 out of 5. Presentation, 4 out of 5. Cost, 5 out of 5. For a total score of 83 1/4.
Not a bad score. I thought it would be a little higher.
I did too, and it's pretty much the same score as Gran Turismo. Some differences though.
Yeah, definitely went about it in different ways. The AI is what killed it across the board. It took down presentation, took down fun factor, and AI. So I think that one thing could really change this game.
Yeah, it definitely hurt it there. On the other end though, I mean, multiplayer was strong, presentation, physics, 11.5. I thought they could have, get any better, and it's getting into PC sim category. And some final thoughts for me on it. It's a great title. I'm really looking forward to putting it against Gran Turismo 5. We're gonna have a whole checklist of features and functions and where it scored on this list and compare the two head to head. And hopefully we'll get to that pretty soon here because both titles are out. Actually, Spec 2's out now of Gran Turismo. I don't think we're gonna see that on Forza's then. They're gonna do their DLC. I think they're done patching it. They got their DLC every month, which is cool, but we're going to see how they go head-to-head.
Yeah.
And that's coming pretty soon. But yeah, great title. Definitely pick it up if you're a Forza fan. If you have an Xbox 360 racer, must-have. They've definitely stepped it up. Looking forward to Forza 5. Should be out in about a year and a half now.
Yeah, they're pretty quick about it.
So that's going to about do it for us. Going to hand it back to Jess to wrap this up, I think, aren't we?
So there you go. The long-awaited feelings, thoughts, opinions of Forza 4.
Okay, everybody, that's going to wrap up our review of Forza Motorsport 4 by Turn 10. We hope that you've enjoyed it, and we hope that it was worth the wait. We put a lot of time, sweat, and effort and tears into this title. And now that it's finished, that sets us up for the ultimate showdown. Forza Motorsport 4 against Gran Turismo. We know that'll bring us a lot of comments. Make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel and to our website, InsideSimRacing.tv. Stay posted for that. That's our next thing that we're working on. Until then, enjoy our This Week Inside Sim Racing, and we'll see you next time. Welcome to Inside Sim Racing.
Take a big breath.
Right.
Wait.
Okay. Right. Right.
Wait. 3.
Patches have been released. New downloadable. Wait. I already said
Start
that.
right there. With all that being said.
Okay. Right.
Wait.
Welcome, Sean.
Thank you. Very excited to be here for this today.
Now, Sean's gonna go ahead and give.
That's great. Okay, let's
With all that being said.
Yeah.
Right.
Wait.
Very excited to be here for this today.
Yes, I know a lot of them are. Sorry. I don't know why.
That's okay, don't worry about it.
Okay. Right.
Wait.
On our review, putting it through.
Not your computer.
I know.
Okay, relax. It just.
Okay. Okay, everybody. I did the breathe again. Right.
Wait.
And now that it's finished, that says.
And now that it's finished, you go there. Okay, come. We're all good. You ready?
Yeah, hold on, except I'm crying now. Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Wait. You get all like.
Okay.